What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm super excited to share the first world boss on tier 3. This is Avarice. This is my first time doing this. It might be probably one of the first videos on YouTube to go over this brand new world boss that we never had access to. But make sure you guys stay till the end of the video because there's actually a chest that you actually have to attack. It doesn't just open up when you destroy them. You actually have to fight the chest to actually get it. So don't miss out on that loot. So starting right off, this video is actually going to serve a couple different things. I'll explain, I guess, kind of like, my thought process during this. But in addition to that, I want this video to be kind of a small little guide for Avarice, like how to defeat him, just like I uploaded how to defeat Ashava. So starting right off, the important thing to do is actually stand in between his legs, very similar to Ashava. But you don't want to stand too close to his stomach region. You actually want to be in this very sweet spot, and I'll try to show you guys, and I'll pause to kind of show you where you want to stand, because he's very, very lenient on the hitbox for his swing. Like, it didn't really look like that would have touched me, but it does hit me. That actually hits me too. You really want to stand like really close to in between the legs, like right in between. Like, you can't be too far up. That instance over there, we dodged it. You can actually wait and dodge it yourself manually. I mean, I've got lots of dodge, but because I built my character super tanky for this fight, we ended up actually swapping, spoiler. We actually changed builds in the middle of the gameplay because I was like, I don't know if this build's got enough damage because I built him too tanky, because I didn't want to die on this world boss. It's just like, the only opportunity that I'm going to be having to actually fight him, because you don't really get that many opportunities to fight the world boss, especially because I'm giving you guys some earlier gameplay here of the Diablo 4. But this is the full game here. So anyways, like I said, you want to stand in between the legs. That is ideal, but there's a few other movesets, and when you get the boss lower in HP, he's going to be doing a few different moves. But ideally, once he does his swing, you could try to go for like a evade. So push like, whatever button that you have. I have mine bound to B, or I think default might be spacebar. So try to use that, and that way you don't get hit by it. But honestly, in terms of the damage, I was one level under. Like, you can see he's level 55, I'm 54 in the gameplay. Didn't really matter too much, but there's going to be a few other moves that the boss will actually do when we get the HP a little bit lower. So once he goes through his little teleport thing, he comes out, and this is kind of your free attack moment here for like a brief moment. He doesn't really do anything, and then he's going to do a swing. You can see, even with that swing right there, look at the hammer. I'm not even close to it. You basically got to be in between the legs and try to just use your evade move, because he's a relatively slower guy in terms of how he actually fights. But you can see right there is where I actually dodged it. The best spot to be, and look, I got hit by that too. Even though on the ground it shows like kind of where it's at, I'm nowhere near it. But you can see also he kind of like dashes when he goes into the portal. Again, still got hit by that one. That one I was pretty close. But again, ideally under the leg. You can see I get hit by it again. It's very picky on the spot, but you can just avoid it. But you can't stand too close to his tail, because he will eventually hit you with that. And anyways, that was his ground slam attack. That will pop these. So there's two different things to explain that's new. The gold on the ground over here, that does damage over time. It's like, it just tickles you. I think you can stand in it perfectly fine, as long as you have some sort of sustain. But those pillars, what happens is you can actually kind of hit them, and if you have a certain build, you may be able to get some resource, or you might be able to build your charges off of hitting those. However, one thing that's important is you don't want to stand next to those. If those overlap, you can take a massive amount of damage. But when he slams the ground right here, that's his slam ground animation. That will activate all of those pillars, and if you stand next to them, they will explode. So don't stand next to them. You'll see a ring. There's like a little crackling of the ground. That's his other attack. And then now there's a bunch of like gold on the ground. And if you're playing melee, it's just unfortunate that you have to take the damage. But he also has another attack. This was shown off in one of like the gameplay reveals. Because I'm playing melee, he's not going to be doing it. But he does have a slam attack that makes a shockwave. And I'm pretty sure if you get hit by that, it's a GG. So that is like kind of like how Ashava, once they poison you, that's like the GG move. But for the most part, the boss is, I would say, not too difficult. Maybe my character is too OP. Maybe my build is on par with what we needed for this. But again, I was under leveled by 1 level. And I'm doing this solo. Remember, this is a world boss. And as far as I'm aware of, I remember when they were talking about the game, they were saying that, like, you can complete the game solo, but there's things that are designed where you're not supposed to be able to solo. But we did the world boss, and, honestly, I didn't feel like it was that hard. I'm guessing the game scales the world bosses according to the players in the area, perhaps? Or maybe Twisting Blades is so good, but we'll eventually swap to Twisting Blades. So he'll do like a little like spit on the ground. Again, that move you've already seen. And then the other move is where he will slam on the ground, and any of those pillars will have a giant explosion. And you don't want to be caught in the overlap, as that's what's going to essentially feel like a one-shot, even though you're getting hit multiple times. But when he does charge, one thing to mention is he will break those pillars that do get placed down on the ground. It's supposed to kind of maybe act as a body blocking mechanic. But as long as you don't have teammates that are trolling with Necromancer and they're using Bone Prison, because the Bone Prison doesn't lock the boss down. If you've played against ashava, sometimes there was trolls playing Necromancer, and what they would do is they would actually lock you in and then you'd get hit. Here's where I actually swapped the build. I actually noticed that like our damage right here, because I've spent about 5 minutes on the boss because we have 15 minutes, and I've only done maybe about 30%. So I was like, okay, maybe we're going to need to swap up the build. I swapped to combo points instead of inner sight because I have a unique item that gives me a more damage multiplier based on if I'm spending combo points. Combo points also with Flurry gives you more damage. And on top of that, I was going to be able to get more damage off of the unique that I have, because my unique, you'll notice, if I use a basic skill, I can get 3 copies of my combo point maxed out. There's like a 30% chance I have a very special item that are called uniques in the game. They're kind of the most rare things, I would say, in Diablo 4. And basically, it can modify, just kind of think of it like a unique in the previous Diablo games. The difference between a unique and a legendary is that uniques cannot be modified. You can't, like, re-roll something on it. You can't change anything with it. You can't throw another aspect on top of it. So here's where I actually swap it. I'm going to briefly explain. So Flurry is still a really good skill for defenses, but this right here is what makes everything so good with Twisting Blades. I have the legendary also equipped, where when I use Twisting Blades, it's going to rotate. It spins around kind of like a hammered-in, but it's just basically used for the cooldown reduction, to give you massive amount of uptime on most of your skills. We actually swapped to inner sight as well, because with the combo points, well, you don't really need to build up your combo points if you can consecutively just expend all your resource. And the reason why Twisting Blades is also very good is because that 8% damage, I'm guessing, is a more multiplier, and that's why it does just insane amount of damage. I mean, look at the time right now. We're at 8 minutes in, and now at this point, the boss has, I don't know, 60, 70%, maybe 65-ish%. Watch the time, how fast Twisting Blades is going to just demolish this boss. It is so incredibly good, especially with Inner Sight, where you're just going to be able to have free resource. And I was kind of hesitant to stand in the AoE, because remember, I'm doing this completely solo, and I didn't want to, like, despawn if I, like, rip. So this boss is not the easiest, if you were just to stand in the AoE and maybe not have any heals, because eventually you're just going to take damage, because I'm playing melee and there's a pool of AoE just literally on the ground pretty much most of the fight, I would say, but that doesn't actually do too much damage. I do have a heal on crit, so you can see I'm avoiding all the damage from the, like, slam, and then once those pillars pop, I'm making sure I don't get hit by but the ground AoE, I think you can basically stand in as long as you have some sort of heal. I tried to stand out of it for a little bit, but then I noticed it doesn't do enough damage. I had 3 points into the heal on crit, so every time I crit, I heal for 3% of my base life. There's no fortification on Rogue, as far as I'm aware of. Like, you know, fortification is pretty important on, let's say, Barbarian and Druid. It gives you survivability. Rogue, you literally just have to move out of the way. With a lot of your skills, you have the ability with your like what I have bound to A over here, it lets me teleport and it lets me go behind the enemy, like just like that. So I'm able to kind of stand really close to the enemy and get into position a lot easier than maybe some other classes, because we have access to it. So that's where the thing is going to be popping. You can see we're not getting hit by that. That is the important thing that you don't want to get hit by, and make sure you don't get hit by overlaps. And I believe you can attack them, but like it will say like blocked or something. If you try to attack him, but maybe with enough damage or something, you can get rid of him. I know that Avarice, the boss, can actually get rid of the pillars when he does his dash attack, when he like runs. So you'll see, eventually he'll probably do it again. But basically, you can stand right next to the pillars the whole time. So you can see where I attacked one of them and it just said block. So I'm not sure if maybe you can actually bounce projectiles off of it. Also, important thing to mention, if you're fighting any world boss, like in this situation, this is my first time fighting him, popping potions, and I'm not talking about the potions that you normally pop, I'm talking about the elixir potions that you can drink. There's also incenses that you can pop. If you're doing it in a group, obviously I did this solo, but I wouldn't be getting the benefit of the incense with like the bonus stats to everyone in my party, but ideally you'd have everyone pop a different incense, so you'd have all of the bonuses to the stats. But going over the elixir, I'm always popping, like, if I don't know what area or zone I'm going into, I'm just going to be popping anything that is going to give me armor. And the reason why is if I want defensive stats, yeah, I would shoot for armor. You can see how much damage it dealt right there. We did get hit by one of the explosions. I'd say it did about 30% of our HP, but that could be with all of the shrouds up. And with all the shrouds up, you have a massive damage reduction. So, surprisingly, the unfortunate part with anything that has like AoE on the ground, you're just going to be taking those ticks of damage. You can see my shrouds over there. We got 4 left. AoE is kind of like, unfortunately, kind of the weakness with Rogue. But you can see right there, we just dodge. I have a few percents to dodge. Dodge just makes it so you take no damage. It's like originally in Diablo 3 when you had dodge. Before, when they made it so dexterity gave you dodge chance, and then they eventually converted all of the dodge to armor, and then you had dodge chance based off of certain like passives in the game. But like I think Monk has it, and also Barbarian had it in D3. But anyways, we're here to talk about D4. The boss is almost dead over here, but with all of the gameplay that I'm going to be showing you guys, that is, you know, this is a full game. Like, this is not like a beta or anything like this. This was the full game. Everything that I'm showing you guys within the next couple days, I'm going to have to add commentary. Otherwise, yeah, it would go against NDA because we got to actually provide commentary to kind of, I guess, explain stuff. But nonetheless, we can't talk about the story or anything until another date, but at least now you guys get to see the world boss, and you'll be ready to fight this world boss when it does appear in the game. So the boss is almost gone over here. He's got maybe like 2 or 3% left, but there is something that you definitely want to see once we defeat this boss, because yeah, the treasure chest needs to be actually attacked to open it. I almost didn't get it because I was just thinking in my head, like, he has this giant treasure chest, right? Why didn't we get it? And there's like the world boss challenger completed. So we got a few different items. We got 3 legendaries, one of them being a sacred. A sacred is kind of, think of it kind of like an ancient item if you've played Diablo 3. So starting off, let's go ahead and check out what we got. So starting off with the ring. This ring was actually pretty good. So it has an 8% increased dodge chance for its legendary power versus enemies affected by damage over time. So that would work on poison, and I believe just poison for Rogue. I don't know if there's any shadow dot, but nonetheless, this is the ring that we got. And then on top of that, when you dodge, you actually gain primary resource. So that actually could be a pretty decent ring, especially for leveling in terms of progression. If I happen to get it early, I think that that's a pretty solid ring. But it wasn't something special that dropped from him only. There may be some bosses that drop very specific things, which I can't get into, but we do have actually one of them equipped, which is actually the unique item. So I have 2 unique items in my build here, but I open up the cache over here. The pair of pants wasn't anything special. It was like you gain a shroud every time you hold still. All right, so we actually got, I don't know which one it was, but we got a nightmare sigil. This is basically to do the nightmare dungeons. We got one of them as a drop. We'll go more in depth in terms of like what a nightmare dungeon is and kind of how it works. It's part of the end game, but I wanted this video just to be about the world boss, so we'll save that for another video very, very soon, and I'll give you the full explanation. So what we got inside of the cache was actually the Shadow Slicer chain. So it's a legendary amulet, and it makes it so when you cast dash, a shadow clone is spawned at your location that also casts dash, and it deals a set of damage. So that's what we got from the world boss. So we got 3 legendaries, one of them being sacred, and then you actually have to attack the chest. And I was like, oh, you can attack the chest. That's kind of cool. It reminded me of a green D3. So here's what dropped. We got some gold, we got 2 different gems, and a heavy chest plate, but it wasn't even sacred, so basically just had nothing of that. And there was like a bow that was sacred, but that is the world boss Avarice defeated over here. So hopefully this little guide kind of helps you guys out, and you guys learned something new. And if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here and you want to see more Diablo 4 content, a lot of stuff will be dropping very soon. Take care. Let me know what you thought of the world boss. See you in the next one. Peace.